and Khaliah. This is Erica too, my best friend growing up. I remember I told you that.
Nice to meet you all.
The only person who believed in me for martial arts. She knows that too. Like, it was like, she'll tell you some crazy
She
stories.
needs you to believe in the hard work.
But yeah, and Erica was kind enough to introduce us to Khaliah, and it's been amazing hanging out with her, learning about from her. Just some of her thought processes are going on. We're helping her launch her clothing brand. She's relaunching her clothing brand as well, so that's exciting for her. But yeah, and we're going to be talking a lot about mindset. So she has some things, obviously, that we're going to talk about today that I'm just going to turn it over to her, because me and you had this conversation, and I was like, man, I need it. We were talking about I need it. This negative and positive thing you were talking about. Like this battle, and I love what you said. Her realness, she guys, just be prepared. She doesn't give it to you real. She's no bullshit. She is just straight up. So I said, because she had said, she goes, Nick, if you meet someone like always positive, they're fucking lying to you. Like, you cannot be positive all the time. Yeah, so I'm really excited to hear some of the things she's going to talk with us about. So, Khaliah, do it.
All right, awesome. Well, number one, thank you so much. You know, seeing all of you sitting here, I would know just by nature, you're in Nick's presence and it's like family. And I think that's one of the great things about working with Nick and Nicole. It's a very seamless experience and it's a very comfortable situation. And I think true growth can only take place in environments where you feel secure. You know, actual change, authenticity, enrollment. And it kind of led us to the conversation we were having about positivity and negativity. Because you meet some people that are just, anything that comes out of your mouth immediately has to be positive. And I've always felt that, for me personally, and observing my father, that space of neutrality and being neutral is control. Because there's going to be positive and negative in life. And it's obviously, you know, what you make of it. But negative comments have their purpose in life. You know, like that yellow line when you're driving down the road and you think, oh shit, if I go too far that way, I'm going to get hit by a head-on car. That's a negative thought, but it keeps you alive. You know, it keeps you thriving. I just think that balance and being neutral in life is important. We were talking about imposter syndrome, I think, too.
Yes, I didn't know that even was. So
Yeah.
could you explain it like that? What exactly?
Because that kind of feeds into that conversation. I think with my father, when he was fighting, you know, he talked himself up into this state. You know, sometimes you fake it till you make it. I know sometimes my father didn't really believe it, but I know that 90% of the time he actually did. And there were just such power in those words for him. And, you know, it was both in that positive and negative charged state. I think it was because he was able to remain neutral and generate the future that he wanted to. He wasn't taken or given by the elements around him, gave him real authentic power and the ability to really connect and be with people. And I think that, you know, one of the reasons people love my father so much, I've experienced so many people around the world who just love him. All walks of life, rages, aces. My father said he walked into a KKK meeting and came out alive and made friends. Remember that I was little, I was like, Dad, are you serious? He's like, oh no, it was great, we're fine. You know, it's just his ability to be in that space with people, that neutral space with people, and create things in that present moment. Create that present moment and always 110% be himself. And I think that's what separates, you know, the 2% from everyone else, is the ability to do that. You know, because truth be told, in pretty much any walk of life, anything, whether it's medicine, it's sports, it's celebrity, it's this Instagram stuff that I'm beating me
she's like her dad. She doesn't like losing at all.
No.
And right now we're, you know, you guys know.
It's frustrating. I'm totally frustrated. You know, like I saw my numbers go down. I called Nick and had a shit fit, and he's just like, calm down. No. But, you know, I think with my father, his abilities, you know, I believe that they came from that space. And the thing that he gave us as a father, and he continues to give, and long after he's passed away, is just the fact that we were raised in that space and lovingly. It's kind of like how I started about this being somewhat of a nurturing environment where trust is established, family is established. You know, you have someone who is guiding you that is authentic with you. You can look them in the eye and trust them. that's a safe place to grow and expand and learn. And that's one of the greatest gifts my father gave to me. I hope I gave to my son, who is now junior at Harvard and a decathlete and just thriving. And, you know,
We were just talking about him.
oh, Jacob,
Yeah,
you
I
are?
was talking about the conversation we had, how he was so focused, never on his phone. He was actually hitting you because you were on there, you were doing Instagram, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And,
It was everything you taught me not to do, why do you do it? You know, we're like in traffic, I'm on my phone, don't point at people when you see them. Apparently I'm pointing at you right now. It's just like, he's so over that with me. But yeah, it's really great. But again, I think it has a lot to do with just the organic roots of good, clean soil to put the seed in. You know, and it doesn't obviously germinate and grow over, you know, just a short period of time. It takes a long period of time. And I look at my father like that too. If you look at the trajectory of his whole career, for the majority of his life, he actually wasn't really that liked. You know, he had to come through a lot. I remember when I was in school and I was in first grade, I was beat up on a regular basis, called the draft dodgers kid a nigger. My dad was a loudmouth, like, you know, really went through it. So, you know, I think it's about patience and belief and having that firm ground, that firm footing. You know, in the case of my father, for him it was also religion too, and believing in something greater and more powerful than himself. And just remaining in that space and riding the waves of life. You know, because I just saw this really cool documentary LeBron did. It's on HBO right now called What's My Name? It's that one famous fight where the guy kept calling him Cassius Clay. So when he knocked him out, he stood over him and said, "What's my name?" Like, respect me, you know? And it was really hard, like even getting through part 2, just watching his whole life and seeing how things just didn't always work. Far from working, losing everything more than once, you know?
Your dad did? He lost?
Oh, yeah, it was just brutal, you know?
Yeah.
But I think because he was always rooted in belief and he had that soil, that earth under him, he was planted firmly in, he's always able to come back. I mean, I think that's the ultimate fighter spirit. You gotta get knocked out to be a real fighter.
Love it.
You know, to get back up. You know, you gotta get dirty with it.
When you said you were like in first grade and you were getting picked on, even though he was like the
You know, I
champion.
guess I got my ass kicked. I told you I got picked on. No, I mean, I legitimately got beat up. Like one school I had to leave because it was so bad. Yeah, you
Never
betcha.
told that.
There's so much there. There's not enough.
Yeah.
That's like anybody else. We all have a story.
And then we were just talking about that. Like, you know, we're talking about right now, like this controlled attention. You know, like that's we just got them over the 12 pillars of controlled attention, having a purpose. Like, you know, for your father, like boxing, it wasn't his real purpose, was it? What was his number one purpose? Was it?
He said he wanted to earn himself a space in heaven. And so how he lived his life would constitute that. The decisions and the choices he made would constitute that. And he realized after being young and when winning was important that there was much more to life than that. And so, you know, that whole conversation, you know, the narrative in his life shifted completely.
And is that why you're so involved? Can you talk a little bit about the philanthropy you're involved with? Like, there's so many projects you have going on. But was that your inspiration? Like, you saw him doing everything. Is that why you got into it?
Yeah, pretty much. My grandmother was a social worker, and I never knew who she was bringing home from work, and she was just my everything, and that meant something to me. And then with my father, same thing. So my space in the family, I feel like the best way to cultivate and preserve his legacy is through working with a variety of different philanthropic and humanitarian causes, because that's what meant the most to my dad. My dad was the guy who, if he's walking down the street and he's seen someone didn't have a coat or shoes, he literally took his off and gave it to them, or you know, he didn't know who was coming to dinner because if he thought someone needed to eat, he brought them back up and they were having dinner or found the way to the house, you're welcome inside. And again, I think that's just my father's connection to humanity and why people loved him so much. And he just was absolutely real, totally authentic with him. And so for me, to honor that, and it's always like, don't build a higher wall, build a longer table in life. I know I've been disproportionately blessed, you know, so what can I do to, you know, give and connect.
What are some of the projects you are involved with? Could you tell us a little?
Street Soccer USA, it's a subsidiary of Help USA. This is gonna be boring, so I'll just
No,
get
they'll like
over
it
to.
too. Yeah.
So the Cuomo family founded Help USA, and so what we are is transitional housing for predominantly homeless veterans or women, abused women and their children. So when you come in, it's not a homeless shelter. You leave an owner, you get an education, their insurance situation straightened out, children are educated. It's just, you know, if you have the ability to get into one of our facilities, and it's spanning 6 states now, we just took over Walter Reed in Washington, DC, it's pretty much getting your life back to where it needs to be. And out of that grew Street Soccer USA, 16 states at the moment, and it's soccer comprised mostly of people who happen to be homeless. And again, through playing soccer and sports, which I'm a big believer in athletics for children, for humans, it's our nature. We're primal people that have a team, you know, is so helpful. So you watch people's lives just completely transform through street soccer, and they transition, matriculate back into society again. Sit on the board of, this is a new developing one, the Public Housing Museum. It's a Second Amendment right, you know, housing for everyone. I think it's important to support the museum. The late Steve Irwin, Wildlife Warriors, my son and I were involved with that, and we worked with Bindi and Terry and everyone in Australia. There's 10 of them, so I'm trying to figure what would be the most interesting. We Are Family Foundation is really great. I think We Are Family is an important message right now. You know, what I like about WAIF is that it doesn't attempt to tell anyone who to be, you know, but just kind of reminds us that we are a democracy, we are a diverse nation, and it's important to respect everybody's political beliefs, social and moral beliefs, and live peacefully together. So I think what We Are Family does is pretty cool. Lionel Rogers, he wrote the song We Are Family, and produced great albums like Madonna's, like Virgin, Prince, you name it. It's really cool. So that's cool, yeah.
And that's one of your projects is actually right here in Kensington, the soccer.
Oh, yeah.
Zach Ertz.
So that would be with street soccer. So in Kensington, we have a facility that's a little over 100,000 square feet. So Zach Ertz, playing for the Eagles, and his wife Julie Ertz have come along with us with Ertz Foundation. And pretty much inside this building, we're gonna have about 6 soccer fields, 2 basketball courts, a learning center, outdoor fields, and really just kind of change the trajectory of what's going on in this one particular community in Camden. You know, giving children and adults a place to be recreationally. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. And Zach is like the most incredible guy. Julie's amazing. His conviction and how centered he is. I mean, they're both at the height of their career, and they could be doing anything in this world, and they're giving so much time to this. It's just incredible, and it's one of those huge type of projects that it's so daunting. Most people will go, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" And they're just like, "Hell yeah." Like, I love you guys, let's do this. So that has just been so incredibly exciting. And I'm so thrilled to work with them, yeah.
I have one more question, then we'll let these guys ask you questions. I'm sure they have lots of questions for you. One thing we were talking about with Jacob was and children from Harvard.
Well, you need to know this. He's totally ditched me for my son. Honestly, like today, Jacob was supposed to be here. He's like, "Oh, you can bring Jacob." I'm like, "You know what? Am I still invited? Like, do you even want to talk to me anymore?" Like, what's that?
We just connected, man. I honestly,
You guys did that very
it was
nice.
like, it was so interesting. Like I was so impressed, and she talks about him so much. Every time I'm talking to her, she's
That's
like,
true. It's
you
kind
know,
of
yeah.
disgusting.
No, it's awesome. She's going to these like, "Oh, Nick, I'm just going to the Yale Harvard track meet today." I'm like, "Oh, that's it." You know, or these crazy track meets with her son. But the one thing I found so interesting, because I remember, unfortunately, when our parents, when we were like, 10, 11, 12, we always had dinner with our parents.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like, you had to be at the table at 5:30. Well, one thing I learned from you and from Jacob, you said this common pattern of children that go to Harvard was that they all eat dinner with their families.
Yeah, like someone released a study saying, what do children who gain admission to Harvard have in common? What's the single one thing they have in common the most? And it was that, not your GPA or SAT, ACT, it was that you ate dinner as a family together was the one thing they had. And I do put dinner on the table 7 nights a week. Before I left, you know, my son the other day, because I'm coming in from Washington, I like prepped food, put it away, so made sure they ate together. But yeah, 100%.
Interesting. You know, and guys, speaking of her Instagram account with awesome followers, we're trying to do some adjustments. Can we all make sure we follow her right now? Everyone on the video too. Yeah, no, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Take this is get your phone.
Take out your
This
phone.
is like,
Let's
this
go.
is like telling us to take out our
Next
phone.
charity, please
Yeah,
support
exactly.
her.
Yeah. How to do some shout outs.
Make a sad face.
Cool.
You know, I think the cool part about following Khaliah though, Nicole loves following you on Instagram. Like her food, her dishes that she makes are just like unbelievable. I feel so guilty because I'm, you know, I've been trying to
Usually
You guys find her?
But yeah, follow her, Khaliah Lee on Instagram. That's handle Khaliah Lee, right, guys? Or, right?
It's, yeah,
So they can just spell that.
Khaliah.
Yes.
Wow.
Ali.
There you go.
Yeah. Kind of sounds like my name. Khaliahani.
Oh, yeah.
Got it.
Alright, just did it.
Nick, I'm just gonna quick look at this. I have a friend who might be having a baby.
Okay.
I'll screenshot it, they can put it on my groups too.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, everybody do.
Nice.
Let's get Khaliah Lee 1,000 followers. That'd be great. Post it.
Yeah, while you guys are at it, official Coach C, follow me too.
And guys, while we're waiting for that, we'll just go. We'll give her the right chance to ask Khaliah a question. Anything you want to ask her at all? It could be about her, her father, anything she's doing. She's had her clothing brand coming out, clothing line again. Chris, you go first.
I actually would like to relate it, I'm just thinking on a family basis to, you know, the Harvard thing, and you have obviously a successful son. I admire that a whole lot. Family means a lot to me. And is there anything else besides kind of having a ritual of sitting down at the family table, dinner every night? Is there anything else that you say we do this every day that makes it family?
So giving has always been a part of it. So Jacob has spent many Christmas days, Thanksgiving mornings, the first thing we did, we were in a shelter. He's donated birthdays. I had him in Australia with wildlife warriors like around 7, and he was in the Congo by 10, which was pretty rough.
Wow.
And so, you know, I think taking him out of what I call our life and constantly exposing him, when we did Little League, he came into the inner city, and we played inner city Little League because we live in the suburbs. You know, just constantly aggressively exposing him. And one of my favorite poems that my father wrote, I think he came up with it at Harvard too, was Me, We. You know, and just understanding how you're not unattached to these other people. We are all attached in life, one way or another, you know? And so, and especially, you know, because of my family circumstances, I didn't want him being a bubble child or a skewed sense of what reality really is. So I think that, and I think also physical activity, like he always was a part of a team. I felt it was important to know what it was to be a part of a team, and he also.
But he told me you will let him play football, right?
Now, if you see someone survive the injuries that my father did and sustain them, and other people that I know who are close friends who played for the NFL, it's just, you know, tragic. And he's a decathlete. We're a big track and field family, so he had things. That was it.
Spencer was your husband. He was
Made it through Olympic trials, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it with family, and then also just laser focus, like who I am as a mother and as a wife and in my house. Nothing is more important. So for those 18 years that he was at home, if friends called me to do something and I felt it interfered with the fact that he had an exam the next day, or I just needed to be present, that's it. Like my clothing line, I've been at QVC, HSN, Shop NBC. I'm still Vogue, McCall, Butterwick, and Simplicity. They're plus size patterns. I do, and even that has suffered because I'm so family first. You know, I mean, I bought him here.
I love that.
You know, and so that's my first and foremost focus. And I'm fortunate that I'm married to someone who feels the same way. You know, my husband's the same way about his son. So we're a team, and what goes on in that house is the center of our universe. When it's not right there, then everything else is out of alignment. I felt that when he was born, parenthood was the greatest gift to me because it was like, if I live my life according to what's good for him, everything works. I'm good, and it's just been that simple for me. and enjoyable. I know it doesn't suit everyone that way, and no judgment, but for me, it's, it's great.
I love that, that's awesome.
Great question.
What quality of
Sorry.
Thanks for coming.
He did my first martial arts lesson. That's how I got into martial arts. Was
Wow.
20 years ago.
It's a ridiculous encounter. I'll tell you that. What quality or attribute from your father do you possess, or do you covet that helps you in your business and raising your son?
I think really loving people, truly loving people. I know everyone in my supermarket. I go to the same guy who I've been getting gas from for the past 20 years. I know about his family. I drop my pies off there on Thanksgiving. Just the power of deeply and profoundly and respectfully connecting with people. And I have such a diverse group of friends that I literally don't think I could ever put everybody in the same room at once, but shit would break out. Like, why do you talk to that person? Why do you talk to that person? I've got some of my closest friends have like redneck tattooed on the back of their neck. And some of my closest friends are like massively liberal New Yorkers, because I just truly love people, and all those same people love my father, and that's the gift he gave me that will never end, even in his lack of presence here on this earth, is that I am always preceded by love. Most likely, not everybody loves him, but most likely. I have this gift of coming into a space where you don't know me, but you're already open, and that's huge. And that's something that I wanted to impart on my son. My son does a lot of public speaking for the family. Ever since he was this big, I always made him stand behind me whenever I did any public speaking to get comfortable with an audience, so he didn't feel any fear, and he felt comfortable. And I wanted to integrate that into, him having a love and just a general respect for all people. And I think that would be the thing with my father. Because we've just never seen someone love people as much as my dad did. He truly, authentically did, and he meant it.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Ross?
I'm kind of emotional right now. I got into martial arts and I didn't just do that. So,
Wow.
so
I saw him crying.
it's an honor to meet you. Like my earliest memories of any kind of combat sports was watching your father fight, and my dad had one of those big old TV recorder things that we would record your dad's fights, and so I grew up watching them over. I mean, I've seen every one of them, everything about your history reports of your dad and stuff. So.
Are you from the area?
No, I'm actually from Florida.
Oh, okay. They just reopened Deer Lake's training camp the other day.
Oh wow. But
Oh, wow.
It's not far from here.
it's I actually did do boxing here for a while, but just it's not sure I
Well,
don't
you're
have anything
the
to say, but
epitome of what I'm talking about, right? Because my father left this legacy as a parent, and it leans on me to, I'll never come close to accomplishing anything that my father did. My job is just to nurture and be a curator. But I think about my son, and what I could leave for him is all you can leave are your good deeds, and just having the privilege of knowing you and hearing you say that is nothing, there's nothing small about it. I mean, that's huge. That's the space I get to live in. I don't ever have to receive a penny, a trust fund, another follower.
I said another idea to get her more. I said
Another follower.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? That's just priceless. And I have the blessing of having your energy, your intent, your love, what he gave you in your life that empowers me.
I have a picture of where him and Sonny Liston fought. Some of my students fought in the same place on
Oh, wow.
I think it was Maine and Lewiston, Maine, where he fought. And at that facility, they have an X where he knocked Sonny out. There could be everything around there, but there's an X right there that they marked out on the floor. And I got a picture of where that was at. And that was probably just 2 years ago. I was up there with one of my fighters. But everything, like you saying, people treated you bad and everything like that. That's heartbreaking for me to hear. Because I've only grown up knowing the loving side of your dad. I mean, I knew there was other stuff. I read the histories of it and stuff like that, but it's amazing to me. meeting you and hearing you talk.
It's to watch that come a long way, you know, like, he passed away not long ago, so June the 3rd, 3 years ago. And I often felt like how he passed away said so much about the man that he was. It really did. I mean, it was so beautiful, like, for the whole family, we just surrounded him by his bed. It was incredible. And he wanted, like, all types of prayer around him. So we, like, started calling people in from the hospital, like, what kind of Christian are you? My husband's Jewish, like, come on, the Kaddish, you and Bernie, speak the Kaddish, and chanting, and as it just turned out, in Islam, you know, Juma, Friday, is a holy day. He died the first day of Ramadan, which was pretty incredible for him. And his imam had been scheduled to come in. I was kind of already ready for that moment because I've been with so many people when they passed on. But with my father, just to kind of feel that energy in the room and to see him make that transition, to watch that happen was so incredibly beautiful because even in that moment, his concern was still everybody. To the last moment of his life. You know, it was just really touching. As a child, it was just such a profound lesson learned. It was so beautiful too. My son, he stood right at the foot of the bed and never left him and stayed at his feet for 13 hours. He never sat, he never ate, he never drank, he never went to the bathroom. He was the last person alone to just really talk to him, and he stayed there till he took his last breath because we left the room. You know, so just, even in my father's death, he gave us so much life. You know, down to even how he planned his funeral. It was incredible. You know, the streets we drove down was like a 3-hour motorcade through all the streets that he figured people would ignore in Louisville. He wanted to go where no one wanted to go. And he wanted us just to feel that love of everybody before we put him down to rest, as if never to forget. You know, it's just incredible. So I think even if we talk about how he lived his life is one thing, but I think when you get into how he chose to pass on and what that says about you, because I think we think about how we live, but so much of our legacy comes at that moment too, because we all know the shit show funerals. Or the confusing deaths where people are just like, wow, incomplete, you know, questions unanswered. You know, and I think he lived so powerfully and with such great intention that it was so clean and beautiful that it was just absolutely life-giving and extraordinary. Really was wonderful.
It's awesome. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, I saw him cry. I was like, oh my God. Man, that's awesome.
So with all the charities that you're involved in, there's something that I believe in that I'm trying to like kind of start on my own. I just, as far as someone who's trying to start a charity for a belief that they believe in, do you have any recommendations or tips or
What's
like
your
guidance?
belief? What do you do?
I'm gonna try not to cry. I lost a couple of my girls last month, so
Daughters?
my dogs.
He's a dog lover, but he's
Yeah.
So 2 in 1 month.
Oh yeah.
I spent about $6,000 at the vet the week before they passed, and they didn't survive anyway. I have that emergency fund set aside for them.
Next time you might never come back here again.
So it's a part, you know, it is, I was saying before, it's family, but it's business also, so I have that emergency fund set aside. But I know a lot of people don't, so like, I've just been doing it out of pocket, but like, the people that like have that $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 vet bill that can't afford it or doesn't have the pet insurance, so like, I wanna be able to give and like, you know, have give them access, you know, accessibility for that, so.
It's amazing.
There's a lot of like rescues and bulldog rescues
Oh, yeah.
and things like that out there, but nothing that I know of or that I see for something like that. And I know there's a lot of people, you know, like to me, like I know people put down their dogs because they can't afford a $2,000 surgery. Like my girl was only 5 years old, so I'm like, I don't care what it costs, do what you can. It's a 50% chance I'll pay the money and it's worth it, like to take the gamble. You know, I mean,
I've been
I've
there.
spent more money to, you know, like,
It's brutal.
yeah, so that's kind of my thing. Like, I'd love to help people with and try to start something where I can, you know, get funds from other people to also give it and not just have to, like, you know, give everything I can, but tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, like,
I think
you know.
you have a lot of opportunity because I feel like that's a space that's overlooked, you know? So then a lot of people I think might consequently say, oh no, well, you know, it's probably not a good idea, no one's like, no, I think it is, you know? And I think a lot of people are faced with that kind of hardship. I mean, you got the right person because, I mean, dogs are life. Like my pets, I think I have animal lover on my Instagram as a descriptive. In fact, my dog was gonna be here today, but he just didn't go to the bathroom. God, so, but yeah, I think that that's a wonderful opportunity, and I think it's a great space, and I think it's a heart-driven thing. So I think if you find people with like qualities, with that conviction, or who understand that pain, and it's kind of that positive negative thing again too, because there's a situation where something that was a negative emotion or pain can be made into a positive. You can tap into that and pull positive out of it. And I think some of the greatest shifts in giving with organizations are when people are deeply connected. You know, enrollment can occur. They see what's possible for them. They link up, or at least they know they're helping someone who could be in their shoes. They can see that, they can get that. And I mean, it just comes down to numbers. What is this, a multi-billion-dollar industry?
Yeah.
You know, we don't even guarantee these guys a safety net. Kind of messed up. Yeah, I think that's phenomenal.
So as far as like any recommendation as far as starting something other than just like finding somebody who started a charity
I
before and
think
like pick
generally
their brain.
501c3, and I can't believe the power of Instagram. I came very slow to all of this. I had no social media in print forever and bragged about it. It's like, no. You know, but now I see, you know, you can use this for good, and I think if you can manage to develop content that makes people feel what you're feeling or know what that is, you know, and use numbers to convey that so it makes sense. I think the power of Instagram could also be very,
So
very
talk to Nick
helpful.
and Jack.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Let me know, I'll help out, that's awesome.
Love it, that's awesome. T?
So I guess not really a question, more of like an agreement or just like an observation. So one thing that I always missed and like looking back, I guess like looking back like in the moment, I was like, oh, guys, eat dinner with like the family. I can't go play Xbox right now. But like looking back, like I really did enjoy like trying to finish my food faster than my dad. So it was like when I was like, if I finish faster, that means I'm the king of the house. It's like somehow he always won. But it was just like eating dinner with like my brother, my sister, my dad, and then my stepmom, and then later on my little siblings. Definitely something that I was like when I have a family, like I can't wait to have dinner every night with them. And then the other thing we would always do is go to church on Sundays. So I was like, I'm like religious, like I'm Catholic and all that. I don't go to church anymore, but I was like, when I have a family, that's like it's something that like I want to, you know, I want them to do, or I want to like. Basically every weekend, like we do that together. Also every Sunday it's church. Every night we have dinner together. So that's something that like for like the last couple of years. And like when I do have, excuse me, when I do have a family, that's definitely something I want to do. And it's cool. So now maybe my kids will get in harder.
I think it's primal, you know, like going back to who we are, you know, our tribe, our team. You know, I think it answers some real ancestral kind of urges and needs. And I think it's important to have that foundation, to have that confidence. You know, my son went to an all-male school, which I think was also very important in his development. You know, when we chose the school, they said to us, Dr. Cox at the time, he said, we're in the business of making great men. We talk about team, we talk about honor, it was like soft military. And he was just coming from a Montessori environment where I was kind of like, you know, but it was that togetherness, you know, and knowing that you have that with your family, I think is so important. I really do. It could be nothing more important. It doesn't even have to be your biological family. It could just be your team that you develop and cultivate. Because sometimes family doesn't always fit.
Well, something to like add to that. So almost every Sunday, I try to get there every Sunday. But again, like brother and sister that's dinner story, but like, so like I don't talk to my dad as much anymore. I don't really talk to my mom as much anymore. They were divorced a long time ago, but dinner story. But so like my best friend Nick, like his family still eats. Like he's 21, almost 22, and his little brother's 16 or 17, and like their family eats dinner every night together. So every Sunday I try to go to his house, and basically like I call his dad, I call his mom. So they're like basically like my other family that I try to eat dinner with every week. And if I miss it, like not that they get mad at me, but they'll be like, what the hell? Like, why weren't you at dinner? Like why we missed you? And I'm like, that's like I guess like another sense of like family, like, oh that's awesome, like I have another family like to eat with every Sunday.
So true. My Thanksgivings went from like 12 people. Last year we had over 60 people.
Awesome.
Because if you don't have a place to go on Thanksgiving, my
I know.
house is where you come, and now it's just like, got a couple people where they're like leaving their family, and I'm like, we'll just bring them, and I'm like, oh my God, I do not live in like a huge house, like I'm renting tables, and like I don't know where we go, because it's real. You know, that level of connection is just so real.
Yeah, we're like this, like my dad's side who I'm closer with, like really Italian, so just like, you know, old Italian grandma, and like everyone can come in and eat. I don't care if you're hungry, feel free. So like I tell like everyone all the time, like honestly, it doesn't even matter like who you are.
Yeah.
If you show up and you're like, oh, Mrs. Kelly, like I'm hungry, I'll fix you a plate. So like that's fine too.
We need more of that
Mhm.
in general in this world, period. We just need more. Again, it's build a longer table, not a higher wall. You know? It's true intelligence. That's intelligence.
I'll take that as she just called me smart. I'll take that.
Awesome. Growing up, my uncle actually was on a flight. He's part of the flight crew that your dad was on. He made pilgrimage to Mecca. So he was telling me how he treated people and how nice he was to not just people he knew, but strangers. And your comment of, you know, he wanted to reserve his place in heaven, which we strongly believe in, is passing the knowledge for caring or to benefit human beings after he's gone. I think you're doing that beyond belief, and I'm sure he's very proud. It's earlier we talked about what's our purpose, right? Mine, I think we discussed it was, you know, motivate and help people, right? So this, again, realignment of what, you know, what we learned today, what we're sharing amongst each other. Just one question, was there a turning point in your dad's life where, he, you know, because he's gone through so much. I mean, I've read, I've saw the movie, I've done it all, but was there a turning point that made him the man he is, or was it all along, as long as you've known him, you know, your dad, that's the way he's been? Or did something shape him to be who he was?
I wish he was alive to ask him that.
I know.
I mean, I can only guess. I know that my grandmother was so important to him.
Okay.
And I think she just loved him so much. You know, like I think that had a lot to do with his inner confidence. You know, his, you know, early on. That's a really great question. I wish he was here to ask him. I really do. You know, there's still so many things that I wish I could ask him that I didn't get the chance to. And that would have been one of them. You know, with Parkinson's, later in life, you just couldn't communicate to him that easily. And even if I thought I could, I didn't want to pressure him, you know, and make him feel bad that he couldn't answer me or work so hard to answer me. And then it becomes about the quality, not the quantity. But there's so many questions that I want to know, and so many things even now, like after he's passed. I don't even know how he was everywhere. Every time I meet someone who says, oh, I was on the highway and I flat tire and your dad showed up. Or I was someplace and I was broke and your dad walked over. This one lady said I was jogging at a track and I was struggling and your dad started running next to me. I'm like, people saw my dad more than I did. What the hell? You know? And then there's so many questions just arise out of those moments. I'm just wondering that I never will really have an answer to. That's an awesome question though. think Islam was a turning point. You can say that. That definitely was a turning point for him. It was very important for him as a Black American to identify with something, and feel a part of something again larger than him. That was a turning point. And then in the documentary, I'm just thinking, what could I think? The second half, that one loss, I think was defining for him, because I think he realized that he, in fact, was not immortal.
Which loss was
I'm sorry.
that? Which one? Which fight?
This was the second one. I have no clue.
Okay.
I think it probably was one of the Frazier fights. Yeah, I think it was a Frazier fight.
He lost the first one, but then he won the second one, or there was 3 Frazier fights?
There were 3 Frazier
Okay.
fights. Don't ask.
Does anyone know?
Don't ask. I just
It
know
was
that.
that fight.
I think it was one of the Frazier fights, and I
He
just
knows.
loved who he was in that moment when he lost. That's the part when I cried, because you don't want to see your father look broken.
Yeah.
And his whole career, and that's why I love this documentary so much, because they clean and commercialize everything. And to see him look broken was like, I don't ever get to see this. But then to see how he chose to handle being broken was what was so profound and amazing. So amazing.
Kind of a weird mindset question. So I have a lot of young employees. You have a son who's 20, right? He's going to Harvard. I would love to know how you transitioned from him being a boy to him being a man, and how you related to him and gave him more and more responsibility and trust. And if you had any insight into that, because I know there's going to be a lot of insight from that into me with young employees.
Mm-hmm. So I never told him when to go to bed or really what to do from an early age, because I wanted him to organically know what was right for himself and to trust himself, and have real leadership, in his own life. I feel like if you have a lot of young employees, I think getting them to access their own power, not artificial power, is very motivating, because then the future opens up and they know they have a sense of control, because it all comes down to control at that age, and it's like, I'll show you, it's like, no, I'll show you what you can do. I think approaching it from a positive, one of the mistakes I feel like a lot of people who raise children around me, and I noticed what happened to their children and maybe they didn't have such a positive outcome, was that they constantly kept trying to drive their imprint into them, or their idea of what they wanted things to be, instead of teaching. It's like teach a man to fish, he eats forever, teaching him what he's capable of and what's at stake if you don't rise. Not what I want from you, but what's at stake here and what you could be. Hey, you can do that if you want, but this is what you're walking away from. If you're capable of all this and then some, but if you want to show up like this, that's what you're going to get. I can't change you. And I think that immediately says to them, it's an empowering statement. Go right ahead. Fucking ruin your own life. Take a shortcut. You have more power. I do not attempt to ever make you think that I have more power than you do. You wield the power here. We're going to work together, and I will support you as much as you put in. Watch. I am so committed to this and so committed to you. And my son always knew that. I am so deeply committed. He's never taken anything for granted. Not his education, not one of those dinners sat on that table, nothing. And he knew, you put the effort in, I'm going to show up. You get those A's, I don't ask. You go to bed when you go to bed. You're in control. And I think that creates leadership, real leadership.
It's like the M&Ms. Remember?
Oh, yeah. Like I always set candy dishes out on purpose, because I had some friends that would go there's neurotic suburban people, private school shit. My child doesn't eat candy, man. And I'm like, yeah, leave those M&Ms out. And Jacob just learned that it was available. Do you know what I mean? And he will take one M&M if he wants one M&M, and he'll leave the rest. It's not necessary for me to be overbearing and insert myself. Now, maybe I just got really lucky with a good seed. Probably, because I have enough siblings to tell you. But that generally was my feeling about that. I think, just showing them what's there and what's at stake. And I think Jacob would say that too, because I've heard him say that about other people and his friends. It's like you're just gonna live your whole life living to prove this person wrong, act out against them, whether it's conscious or subconscious or very deep into, again, those ancestral roots because you had parents that just, you know, or nothing was ever right or never showed you how great you could be, and then you show up as a boss that way. You're gonna get what parents got.
Generation curses.
That's it. That's it. You live right into that shit. We're hardwired for it. You know? Just so.
Like that.
I'm also about 8 minutes from Camden, so if you ever need martial arts
Oh,
instructors,
nice.
it's got all my info. So
I
we
was-
do witness self-defense
Oh,
courses
do
at
you? I
Camden.
love those. Yeah, yeah.
And we got a full staff. We'd love to help out.
I was just telling Naka, one of my great struggles in my life is my weight. So I was in the Today Show for the first time at 9 years old for weight loss because my mother, who was like massively petite and like fat at 130 pounds until the fourth child, got petrified of this girl who was like in first grade, 5'4", and 120 pounds and like size 10 feet in daddy's hands and head. You know the Ali girls by our head and hand size and feet size. Big heads, big hands, big feet. And it just petrified her. And so I was put on a diet very early and it sent a lot of negative messaging. And so I've always struggled with my weight. I even had like a weight loss surgery live on Today's Show, like a lap band surgery, because I thought it was the right thing to do at the time. Long story short, ended up really not being the answer. And recently I've just done it on my own. And so like the next 40 pounds is going to probably be the most challenging. So yeah, Camden's not far. You know, just getting myself into activities that are fun, that are challenging. Like, you know, I want to make this last 40 fun. Like I'm up for the challenge of it. You know, really want to take it on. And this time it's about just growing old, being healthy. I'm looking at my son and I'm like, is this responsible? Do I really want him taking care of me like this? Do I really want him, you know, like mom's in a scooter or something? I don't know. It's not even sexy. Yeah, I want to be like Mama Curry, Steph Curry's mom. You know, like I'm in a health club now. I'm like looking at like fit 70-year-old women with muscles, and I'm like, yeah, that's it, right there. So yeah, might come looking after you for it because that's good.
I mean, even like the facilities in Camden, if you need staff members.
Oh yeah. Let's talk. Let's talk about that.
Anytime you need volunteers, just let me know.
That's beautiful. 100%. Connect for sure.
I'm actually like 20 minutes from your son up in Massachusetts, so if
Oh,
you need
wow.
help, have me give me a
That's
call.
awesome.
Every human being has a metric for normal versus abnormal. Does anything, at any point in time, does anything you sort of feel surreal anymore for you? Like your dad, I remember, like, number 1 or number 2 most popular athlete on the planet? Next to Michael Jordan. Like, him and Jordan were like, it was like a competition between the two of them. And so does anything even hit you as surreal anymore?
That's a really great question. I have a problem with that. I really do. Like, I don't metabolize certain things the way I should, or who you're meeting, or what you're doing. You know, it just doesn't occur to me. I won't say who the celebrity was because that'd be tacky of me, right? But like something happened.
Turn the camera off, it's fine.
And so something happened, and they were like, "Come hang out." I was like, "No, I'm busy." I was like, "Are you stupid?" And I'm like, I look back and I was like, "That was probably pretty dumb because it would have been cool." You know, like I don't. It doesn't faze you the same way I could met everybody. You know, and usually I've had the privilege of those people coming to see my dad. It's not like I was there to see them, and people come in such a beautiful, humble space. But at the same time, I love that one Jay-Z line, "What you eat don't make me shit." They're just people, you know? But I do often lose that proper perception. Do you know what I mean? Like I do. It is skewed. Like when I was a little kid, I used to call hallways lobbies because I didn't understand, you know, that it wasn't a hotel, stuff like that. I didn't know my dad was famous until he was in a photograph with Paul McCartney, who's still to this day my favorite human being. And my dad, he called, and I was like, "What are you doing in a photo with Paul?" He's like, "What are you talking about? They came to see me." I'm like, "Why?" And like,
That's funny.
all of the Beatles. I grew up on the Yellow Submarine. You know, like, I was like, are you kidding? And he's like, they come for me, and I just it was either one or the other, do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it just was second nature, or when I was very little, I couldn't, because we were raised so normally. I was just like, why, Daddy? But the beautiful thing about my father was that he never felt entitled to anything. So like the night that the Ali Center opened in Louisville, which is a worthwhile thing, it's incredible, it's beautiful. My stepmother Lonnie did it, who's just this other extraordinary thing I'm not even talking about right now, because without her, there's nothing. Like, she's just amazing. But even like when my dad's museum opening, it's interesting, his metric, he never expected anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was just like, this is big, I can't believe this. And then when we went in and like it was filled with thousands and thousands, like the whole arena was filled, it was just like, they're here. I can't believe people came here. You know, like, he never anticipated it as far as that metric goes with him. He every single time was appreciative and never just thought this should be.
So I have 2 questions now. So number 1, have you had a chance to meet Paul McCartney? That's gonna be my Instagram campaign for you, because I also love him a lot. And
You love Paul too.
I just saw him in where was I? New Orleans like 2 weeks ago.
In person?
Yeah, well, we went to like a sound check, which is as close to
That's close to
as
that.
person as us mortals could get. I'm sure you could get to meet him.
That's as close as I.
We're gonna start on the Instagram. Like, that's my focus for you, being Paul. But my real question is, I think it'll be super easy for you now. Like, no one would excuse you being like not lazy, but like not doing as much as you do, right? Like, you know, you have this amazing legacy. You're doing all this philanthropic fabric work. So what continues to drive you, you know, for the next 10 years, 20 years, like?
I love what I do. That's it. I just love it. It's so cheesy to say you do what you love, but it's what keeps you awake at night and wakes you up in the morning. I'm the most happy ass person starting at 4 a.m. I'll even Instagram them. Happy faces, makes me feel all bad. I'm like, hey guys, I'm up at 4:30. You know, but I'm excited. Like, I love it. I really love it. You know, and I think again, it's that what's at stake thing, you know, that keeps me present. But yeah, I feel very blessed. And I really love what I do most of the time.
Hi, I'm Carrie. And I don't really have a question other than thank you for coming and just listening to you speak. I also have a son who's an athlete, junior, not Harvard. But, and in our weekend, we've always sat at the table until sports kind of takes over in the afternoon during you going to the meets and practices, and that kind of disrupts everything. So we're having hot dogs on the baseball field instead or whatever. But with all your philanthropic work and, you know, I have so many like long, far-reaching goals too, and I just commend you for everything that you're doing. And you know, you talk about the next 40-pound goal, which I'm on the same goal. That's also a great Instagram thing to do. You'll have a whole lot of women following you and working with you on that.
We were talking about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
that would
what, yeah, even, like, she's like the word university.
Nick, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Tell everybody about this
No,
university
it's funny.
stuff.
But it's
So force me into it.
Don't you think she should be putting out content?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Would you guys love to see her content on a teachable?
Yeah.
She's like the word university.
You in there, yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny though because you have met, I know that I've only met certain celebrities and I'm also from the Boston area and I'm friends with a lot of people who went to high school with the New Kids on the Block who got beat up all the time, by the way, in school. But, so it's just really interesting that I feel ironically and I have a lot in common with you, which is something also that Nick will have you expand on Instagram because you will have, and he'll give you all those followers for that purpose. So thank you very much for
I'm glad you told her that, because that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's all the women want to learn from her.
Yeah.
They-
And when you're talking about your son and how how you brought him to be a leader, sorry, I said no question, but just that whole same purpose, because as I'm around, I raise my older son the same way, and I have friends who they just give everything to their kids all the time, and I'm sitting there going, dude, like, your kids can be over years, always knowing, like, there's one thing to know that I can call my mother if I need her. She will always be my support. And there's another with, is my mother gonna bail me out every single time. So that is a huge difference in there. And I feel like, you know, it seems like it's the right answer, and I'm glad to hear. I got a lot of common with you. So.
It's always more than we think. It's always shocking.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Cameron?
Yeah, so first of all, a little bit of a Paul McCartney tip.
Yes.
He really loves this restaurant on the Upper East Side.
I
called
an Italian
Overcommitting.
one. Yes, yes.
It's incredible. I didn't know you liked it until I was eating pasta there one night, and then like,
You know, you had that experience? I
It was
couple
right
friends
next
who
to
did.
it.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
No way.
What's this restaurant we're going right now? I love that restaurant now.
it's called Marini. It's on the Upper East Side of
Yeah.
Manhattan, and it's actually amazing. Every like weeknight after 8:30 p.m. all the costs are like $12. That's actually.
That's what I call this guy. I was talking on a budget.
It's not. Anyways, outside of that, I'm a little bit curious to know actually, like, can you think of, you know, any kind of mistakes that you've made in your life and how that's kind of affected the way you live your life today?
We don't have enough time for that. Overcommitting, definitely. Learning to say no to things is actually really saying yes to something positive. You know, and I've had to kind of learn that. It's not negative. You know, ultimately it's good. And I think that imposter syndrome thing we were talking about earlier, that's a big one for me too, because I've had a couple situations that I've been in, and because my father is who he is, I've been challenged. Will you really belong here? Or we know how you got it. Well, you know what? Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
somewhat true. I won't deny. It's always going to be inextricably bound to who and what I am. But am I qualified to stay here and to do the job? Hell yeah. But have I ever let it get to me? Yeah, it has. It definitely has sometimes. The way that, especially working in New York, you know, like it just bears down on you. But people can have bigger problems in life too, right? Like that's actually not even a problem. You know, so it's changed the way you look at things, and things you look at change. So it's just the attitude adjustment on my end that I had to make, and I think that has benefited me. And I think the times when I've made the poor choice to not be transparent and protect myself usually doesn't work out. I just take the long road. You know, it was just easier just to put it out there. You know, I think what's painful is dealing with it or saying it, you know, fearful of the consequence of what's going to come from that. So the times that I've decided to take those emotional shortcuts in my life, I feel like it wasted my life. You know, I mean, sometimes you can be diplomatic, but, you know, I look back on those times and I do regret that. I just should have, you know, not been scared.
Thanks.
That's Mike Simmons from the Boogie Down Bronx. My question is, in your experiences and your dealings, you know, well, not dealings, but more so like being around your father, what was the core things? What was his routine? What was the system that he used when his back was against the wall, when he was at his worst, when he was challenged with overwhelming nuances? What was his mechanisms that you can remember?
That got him through. I wish Lonnie was here because she would answer that really, really well. Obviously, I think his religious beliefs, you know, because he knew he was standing on something that, again, I keep saying it, but he really felt this way, that it was just much bigger than him. That ultimately that power was out of his control. You know, my father was a creature of habit. He, my favorite quote, one of my two favorite quotes of his book, one of my favorite quotes is like something like, I hated every minute of training, but I know if I suffer now, I'll be a champion forever. So my dad was relentless, you know, and there you go. And he knew how to make friends with pain and discomfort. And I think that that is just so key. It's like who we become. Same thing I was saying earlier about just being transparent. Oh, I got emotionally uncomfortable, so what did I do? I hid, or I took a shortcut. You know, same thing with my father and his training. Like, obviously, if you're an elite athlete performing at that level, there are no shortcuts. you know? Just at one point every day. And I just think that he was relentless and meticulous in that area of his life. He was a creature of habit, you know, and he didn't give up that ethic, you know, just that strong work ethic and desire to win. I mean, man loved to win. He loved to talk about himself winning, you know? And so I think that probably was a driving force too. It's not wanting to lose. I hate it personally. What about you? I don't think most people like it. I accept it. I prefer not to. And instead of it becoming a crippling thing in my life, and I know for him, it just can become a motivating factor. You know, people always talk about like life having to be so balanced, but there was nothing balanced about my dad when he was training and being the heavyweight champion of the world. Like there was nothing balanced about any great elite athlete in their life, or any great corporate, or even me in motherhood. You know, like it's finding your balance for what you need to achieve. That I think is a real issue. Is the real thing for my dad, and that's what I observed with him. Like, you're in the gym 8 hours a day. How the hell is that balanced? He's like, well, you must balance and be positive. Bullshit. Do you know what I mean? And so I think for my dad, that's what that was.
Oxy, the question?
No, I just had to say thank you.
Thank you.
That's all. Like it's, I don't, I'm sure I will. Thank you so much. This is like, just amazing. Thank you for sharing all, like, your experience. Yeah, it's awesome.
That was awesome. Any questions from anyone there?
Any questions from everyone in the digital realm here? I don't see any questions. How about you, John Arena? Any questions, guys? We did have a lot. Oh yeah, don't forget, follow Khaliah on Instagram. And
That's my own personal charity.
you know, Alfonso says thank you, amazing experience. Thank you so much. That's nothing else is coming in.
I have an idea though for Ron. We could take the video and we'll email to our entire list and tell them to follow her on Instagram.
Perfect.
Got to make up for those losses. She lost some followers like last week. We all did though. So, but anyway, can we get a picture with you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
I have to order my son some Jamaican.
You want to do it here, or do you want to go on?
Thank you so much again, Khaliah. Thank you so much.
Do you want to go up on the roof for the picture, or?
Legend.
I think that'd be cool.